It is officially 2025. So welcome to the new year, everyone. I think a great way to start off the new year is talking about the top 5 stories to watch as we enter the new year. Basically, the things to watch as we approach the second half of the NBA regular season, and the things that should be top and front of mind on a night-to-night basis as you watch the league. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I'm uploading every single day, multiple videos a day. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. And so, yeah, got 5 stories I'm gonna be talking about just in a couple minutes each. And we're gonna talk about these things. Y'all let me know in the comment section down below if there's anything I missed, anything that y'all think is a bigger story or a huge thing that you're gonna be watching in the second half of the season. Maybe just a story with your NBA team, your favorite team. Let me know what you're gonna be watching for this second half of the year. But we'll start with the bottom of the league. At number 5, the race to capture the flag or capture the Dylan Harper, whatever you want to call it. The lottery race this year with a very, very deep, very talented NBA draft upcoming. It looks to be right now a truly 5-team race for the bottom 4 spots in the league. But I do think you also certainly have to keep in mind the Nets and the Blazers. The Nets have very clearly, as of late, made moves to tank by trading Dennis Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith, as well as Shake Milton, and I would expect Cam Johnson will be gone as well in the near future. The Blazers, I honestly think, are a little bit too good to be in the bottom 4 unless they were to just absolutely massively tank themselves in the second half of the year, but those look to be the clear 7 worst teams in basketball. Every other team above that is trying to win games, and even the Bulls, I didn't really think they would really try to compete, but they're a little too good at this point to be able to fall back towards that bottom. So at this point, every team above Brooklyn is like, they're trying to make the play-in, at least it seems like. So that bottom 7 is your tanking group. And I think this is the group to watch to see how things progress, especially the Nets and the bottom 5. Those are the 6 teams to really be watching. The Nets obviously have a head start, but they might now, or at least very soon once they trade Cam Johnson, actually be the worst team of any of these bottom 6 teams. Just considering that without Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, or Dennis Schroeder, they basically wouldn't have their 3 best players from the beginning of the season. And at that point, it's Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and Nick Claxton. He might get traded too, honestly. I wouldn't be shocked if Claxton, Daron Sharp, or maybe even both of them got traded as well. Like the Nets are just an old school trade machine franchise team, which is a very fun team to have in the league, but they're not going to win games. It's going to be interesting to see out of those bottom 6 who wind up being the top 4 picks, or the top 4 highest percentages, the highest percentage chance for the number 1 pick, I should say, because you want a bottom 4 record to give yourself the best chance possible for the number 1 overall pick and an opportunity to draft either Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. With that being said, it's going to be interesting to watch how these bottom teams play as the season progresses, who really full on commits to tanking, and what type of phantom injuries and interesting things we get around the trade deadline to make some of these teams worse. With that being said, that's only number 5. Number 4, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit overhyped how much it matters, but the MVP race, which to me at this point seems like a 3-guy race. Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But Giannis has played the least number of games at only 25. Definitely needs to avoid injury in the second half of the season, because if he gets an injury and misses close to a month, he's out of it. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have a ton of games to play with in terms of that MVP race this year. Other guys who may have threatened for the MVP race, I don't think Tatum is quite. I mean, Tatum's having a good year, but I don't think he's quite there. Luka is injured again and is going to not be eligible this season. He's going to play under 65 games. So at this point, it feels like it's a very distinct 3-player race in Giannis, Jokic, and SGA. On paper, Jokic is having probably the best season. 31, 13, and 9.5. He's having a ridiculously historic season, shooting at unbelievable efficiency, best effective field goal percentage of all that players, and that includes Giannis, who doesn't shoot any threes. And then he's shooting almost 50% from the 3-point line. Like, really one of the greatest offensive seasons we've ever seen in the history of the sport. With that being said, Giannis is an elite 2-way player, like truly incredible, and Shai is a very good defensive player in his own right. I think his defense is a little overrated in some circles, but I think he's a very good defender still. I'm not going to take that away from him. And he, while not quite as impactful as a rebounder as Giannis and Jokic are, and certainly not as a passer as Jokic is, he's still a really impactful player on arguably the best team in the league and a nearly unstoppable scorer in his own right. Really think you could make an argument for all 3 of these guys. I'm not going to make an argument for any of them in this video. I just think that this is a great race to watch between arguably the 3 best players in the sport. We got ourselves a heck of an MVP race as we progress towards the second half of the year. And it'll be interesting to see which of these three guys is able to emerge into the lead and kind of take control of the race. If I had to rank it right now, I'm not going to make a case for any of these guys again, but if I had to rank it, I would rank it Jokic, SGA, Giannis right now. Could things change in those rankings? Absolutely. It's going to take the Bucks playing better. It's going to take the Nuggets probably playing better. And it's going to take Shea keeping this perfection up at a ridiculously high level. And maybe even taking it to another level as a scorer, which he's kind of been doing as of late. But it's going to be interesting to see which of these three guys winds up pulling that one out this season. Next, we have at number 3, the Jimmy Butler race. Not just a race. Basically, what happens to Jimmy Butler as the second half of the season progresses. The Heat said they're not trading him. Jimmy recently, like yesterday or the day before, as I record this video, came out and was very non-committal about whether or not he was going to be with the Heat long term. Just a very interesting situation to follow for sure with this Heat team. Considering that Jimmy, I mean, he's not even the best offensive player in the team anymore. I honestly think he's a little bit overpaid at this point in his career, but he's still a guy who can be a number one option down the stretch 100%. He is an elite finisher inside the three-point arc, and he is still a very high-level defender, very intense player. I think he would fit really well in Houston. I think there are some other destinations as well that if he were to get traded to there, he would be a great option, and I think he's a great player. The reason that I have the Jimmy Butler trade as only the number 3 story to watch, though, is because I think there's another player who would be even more impactful who might be getting traded. And so we'll talk about that here in just a second. But at the number 2 spot, we have the race toward the top of the West, or really the top of both conferences. Like, not the number 1 seed in the West feels pretty clear to be the Thunder at this point, but the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through about 11 is going to be chaos. Because then it's going to be important too, because you want home court advantage in that 2 spot until the conference finals. You want home court advantage in the first round if you're a team like the Mavs or the Nuggets or the Rockets that are all hanging around that 3, 4, 5, 6 area. The Clippers getting Kawhi back here in just a couple days could make them really a serious threat for a top 4 seed as well. It's going to be really fascinating to see how this area of the Western Conference shakes up in the near future. And then in the East, the race for the 1 seed between the Cavs and the Celtics is interesting as well. And I say the race for the 1 seed. I'm not certain we're going to have much of a race for the 1 seed here in the near future if the Cavs keep playing like they have been. Because the thing about that is that the Cavs are like playing so well, and the Celtics also have a pretty tough couple road trips coming up this month against basically most all the top teams in the Western Conference, that if they don't play great in that stretch, we could very easily see the Celtics slip to 6, 7, 8 games behind the Cavs, which could give the Cavs home court advantage throughout the entire Eastern Conference playoffs and would be massive in a potential conference finals matchup against the Celtics. Not to mention, we could get Celtics-Knicks in the second round. That would be an incredible series in its own right. So the race for the top of the East is also going to be interesting, and I think it's also going to be interesting if the Celtics do slip up. Is this a situation where the Knicks could potentially move up and the Knicks could get to the 2 seed? Because the Knicks are playing great basketball as of late. They've won 8 in a row, and they're playing really well. Like, they could very easily pass the Celtics, and then the Celtics would only have first round home court advantage in the first round, in theory. Then they could very easily be going on the road for 4 of 7 against the Knicks, and then if they win that, going on the road for 4 of 7 against the Cavs. It is not going to be a cakewalk in the East for the Celtics the way that it was last year, and that could make for a bunch of other interesting storylines to watch. But as my number 1 story to watch here in the second half of the NBA season, early in the 2025 year, it is De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings. Not really the Kings as much as what happens with De'Aaron Fox, because the Kings are going to have to make moves to keep him interested and keep him around. If he requests out, if things keep going south for the Kings for the next month or so, if we get to late January and the Kings are pretty clearly not really a serious threat in the Western Conference to even make the playoffs, I would not be shocked at all if De'Aaron Fox is available for trade and is therefore probably the most desirable asset that's been available on the trade market in a while. Because look, that's a top 20 player. He is one of the better point guards in the league. He is one of the best clutch players in the league. He is the type of guy, you add him to the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama, you add him to the Houston Rockets, you add him to really a lot of teams that could use an elite level point guard, and it could thrust a lot of teams into serious title contention very quickly. Like, this is the type of player that would be earth shattering for the Rockets or the Spurs, especially. I feel like are the 2 areas where those teams could those teams would, if I was running either of those teams, I'd be calling Sacramento yesterday, the day before, and the day before that, and every day for the next 2 months, trying to get De'Aaron Fox up until the trade deadline. Like, that dude is the type of player who can really alter a franchise at this point in his career. He's 27. He's right in his prime. And I really do believe he's a top 20 player in the sport and the type of player who could catapult a team into championship contention. So going to be interesting to follow all of these races, all of these conversations, all of these things as the second half of the season progresses. And let me know what y'all thought of this video in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I will be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.